درود به همه دوستای عزیز، امیدوارم هر جا که هستید حالتون خوب باشه. خوش اومدید به افلکس فیتنس. امیر هستم. براتون امروز یه مصاحبه جنجالی و جالب و با داور مسترالمپیا آماده کردم. صحبت‌های خیلی جالبی کردیم، سوالای چالشی ازش کردم در مورد بدنسازی ایران، در مورد اینکه چرا بچه‌ها نمیتونن ویزا بگیرن، اینقدر بدنساز خوب تو ایران داریم ازشون باخبری، از اینکه چرا بهروز تابانی با این همه که پتانسیلش زیاده 3 سال پیاپی ویزا نگرفته. در مورد هادی چوپان پرسیدم، در مورد قضاوت سال گذشته مسترالمپیا، در مورد مسترالمپیای امسال حسابی صحبت کردیم. یکی از نکات جالب این بود که آیا مسترالمپیا قراره همیشه توی آمریکا باشه یا که سالهای آینده قراره جای دیگه بره و قراره جای دیگه هم بره. صحبت خیلی خوبی بود، سوالای چالشی رو ازش کردم، سعی کردم همه سوالای شما رو یه جوری ازش بپرسم. این ویدیو رو لایک کنید، نظراتتون رو برای من کامنت کنید، در پایان هم اگه سوالی داشتید توی کامنت سکشن برای من بنویسید. مرسی که این ویدیو رو تماشا میکنید. این ویدیو رو با دوستاتون هم به اشتراک بذارید. بریم که این پادکست رو با هم ببینیم.
Can you hear me right now?
Yes sir, right on. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good. How are you?
Well, pretty good. Pleasure to meet you finally virtually here. I didn't know you live in LA, so I would love to meet you in person as well. And yeah, I messaged a couple of times back and forth. We discussed different subjects. I'm very flattered to have you here on my podcast as an Iranian, and in behalf of all the Iranian fans and people, welcome you to our podcast.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here. I have a deep and profound love for Iran and for the Iranian people. I have been able to judge them on stage. Lots of them are my friends, my azizam. So I'm very, very happy to be here with you guys.
Fantastic. You're our azizam too.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have tremendous admiration for the Iranian people, simply because I know the history, right? Some of the greatest warriors we've had in mankind have been the Persians, you know, the Iranian people. So as somebody who's from a different culture, I was born in Brazil and I've been able to travel the world. I have a profound admiration for the history of the Persian people, the history of the Iranian people as great fighters, as people that never give up, as people that believe in what many people would believe to be the impossible. So it's very admirable and it inspires me.
Beautiful. Thank you for all the good words. And as you said, let me start with this question. We have a lot of tremendous potential in Iran, especially in bodybuilding. In a sport, we have greatest 212 guys who never made it to US, and they have a issue with visa. And right now we have Behrouz Tabani, who's qualifying for past 3 years for Mr. Olympia, winning a big shows, but still haven't heard from the embassy. So do you have anything in mind what they have to do to get to the States and compete with the big guys and the biggest show in a year?
So, you know, the idea is to create a universal force so that everybody in the world understands the importance of Iranian bodybuilding to bodybuilding itself, right? So if you do a World Cup and all of a sudden the Brazilian team doesn't have a visa to go compete, the World Cup will not happen. It wouldn't be legitimate, right? And my goal is to show the entire world that we need the Iranian athletes to be a legitimate and authentic, enriches the Mr. Olympia, enriches bodybuilding if we have the Iranian competitors. So my goal is to promote Hadi Choopan, is to promote Vahid Badpay, is to promote Sahar, is to promote as many Iranian bodybuilders so that eventually all the embassies, they see that the Mr. Olympia has 30, 40, 50 Iranian competitors. And there's no reason to deny a single competitor. And obviously, I know that they have to go through their protocol. You know, I deal a lot with the Brazilian competitors. And, you know, right now for the Mr. Olympia, we have about 40 50 Brazilians coming. And once in a while, one or two, they can't get the visa. And it's very unfortunate. It's very sad. But my goal is that we have 40, 50 run-in competitors, and hopefully everybody can get the visa. But in order for us to have the run-in competitors to get the visa, we need to show the world that the Iranian bodybuilding is a huge force. They travel to the United States to compete because the United States needs them to come in and to compete.
Right. Excellent. And how do you see this year Mr. Olympia compared to year before? Do you think any changes? Do you think any dark horse going to make it to Mr. Olympia this year, or any wild thing about this year Mr. Olympia?
Well, as a judge, I can only speculate, right? So as a judge, I cannot make any predictions. I can only speculate. But I always tell people to look at the history of Mr. Olympia, right? The history of Mr. Olympia will tell you a lot of secrets. Arnold Schwarzenegger won 7 times. After Arnold, we had Lee Haney winning 8 times. Then we had Dorian Yates winning 6 times and Phil Heath winning 7 times. We have Ronnie Coleman winning 8 times. But I think right now we are going through the same transition that we had between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lee Haney.
Right.
Between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lee Haney, we had some victories by Samir Banu, by Chris Dickerson, by Franco Columbo. And I think that's what's happening right now. I think right now you've had Brendan Curry winning, you had Big Ramy, you had Hadi Choopan, you have Derek Lunsford. Right. So it's a very, very competitive environment right now. And it doesn't look like anybody seems to be the one to carry a dynasty for 7 or 8 Mr. Olympias. It looks like they're very close to each other, right? It looks like some of the guys that are coming, also Samson Dauda, Andrew Jack. So it's very even right now. We don't have a Phil Heath that's ahead of other competitors by a mile. We don't have a Ronnie Coleman that's ahead of other competitors by a mile. So it's very competitive. In the last 2 years, we had Hadi Choopan versus Derek Lunsford, and they alternated the titles. Those guys are very close. Hadi Choopan displayed a physique at the Arnold Classic Ohio that was spectacular, right? Spectacular. He looked better than what he did at the Olympia. And if he duplicates this effort, Hadi Choopan could very well regain his title. The key question is Derek Lunsford going to display the same physique that he did in 2023?
No way.
Or is he going to be improved? What are the improvements that he has made? And can those improvements beat Hadi Choopan Arnold Classic physique? And then we have to look at Samson Dauda. Has Samson Dauda improved his back? Can Samson Dauda match the conditioning of Hadi Choopan and Derek Lunsford? All those are factors. Then we got Andrew Jack. He looked great in Texas. And then you could have many dark horses. I mean, listen, if Hadi and Derek are not at their best, and Samson Dauda is not at his best, and Nick Walker comes in as his all-time best, he could very well do a lot of damage.
Yeah, Nick Walker is, beside Hadi Choopan, it's hard to beat, but he think he can beat current Mr. Olympia, Derek Lunsford. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think there's one thing that is, that Nick Walker feels very confident. He feels very confident that he can be more conditioned than Derek Lunsford. Right. And maybe he doesn't feel that confident against Hadi Choopan. True. Because Hadi Choopan has been very consistent with his conditioning. Again, I still prefer Hadi Choopan's physique at the Arnold than the Olympia. The physique that he showed at Arnold, Ohio was superior than the physique he showed at the Olympia. If I were to give one advice to Hadi, would be Hadi, duplicate the same physique you had from the Arnold to the Olympia, because that was a very, very good physique. And I think a lot of people like Nick Walker, like Samson Dowda, like Derek, they saw that physique and it was quite scary. That was a great physique.
That was a great physique, absolutely. But don't you think the judges already saw that physique and they want to see some improvement from Hadi Choopan?
So that's a great question, right? That's a great question. A lot of times when you get to the highest level of the Mr. Olympia, you keep thinking to yourself, well, what do I have to do to improve, to look even better, to look even better? And a lot of times you actually you actually look worse because you try to make a lot of changes. You know, we've seen that many years. I had one time a chance to talk to Ronnie Coleman. And I said, Ronnie, what was your favorite physique of all times? Your favorite physique? And he said 1998, which was his first victory.
Yes, first victory for sure.
When you get to that level, Hadi Choopan, Derek Lunsford, Samson Dowda, Nick Walker, you know, you are already at possibly 99, 98% of your potential. I think Hadi Choopan at the Arnold Classic, he was 100% of his potential. So I would be concerned trying to improve, because a lot of times improvement on a perfect physique means regression. You know, I've seen tons of competitors that they think they're getting better, but sometimes they're getting worse. Phil Heath was a lot better earlier than he was later.
True.
Ronnie Coleman was better earlier than he was later. So, you know, this thing about, hey, you always have to keep improving, you always have to keep improving, sounds great. But in reality, you can actually get things confusing. You can change a physique that's already great, and you can mess up a few things. I would duplicate the effort that Hadi Choopan did at the Arnold. If he shows up with the same physique, you know, he will be very good on that stage.
Yeah, definitely true. I think Hadi Choopan proved his consistency with conditioning and showing up. And I think he's going to have even more improvement this year. Like in course of, I would say 6-7 months, he made those improvements. And we will see the gnarly back from Hadi Choopan, hopefully, you know. But Derek Lunsford, what Derek Lunsford has to do to defeat Hadi Choopan and retain the championship?
Derek Lunsford needs to improve his quads. He needs a little bit more quads. Hadi Choopan's quads are a little bit, they flare a little bit more. Right. So Derek needs to improve his quads. He needs to hit the abdominals and thighs, right? He needs to hit that pose. And, you know, regardless if he wins or loses that pose to Hadi, and Hadi is very dominant on that pose, Derek needs to hit the abs and thighs so that we can see that even if he loses that pose, but at least he doesn't lose by that much. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
So yeah. Derek Lunsford is incredible on the back double biceps, but that doesn't mean Hadi Choopan is not going to hit a back double biceps. You know, that doesn't mean Samson is not going to hit a back double biceps. Hit the pose, and even if you lose to Hadi on the abdominals and thighs, that's perfectly fine, but at least you're reducing the gap that you're losing.
True.
And he needs to be a little bit more conditioned on the pecs, on the shoulders, you know, especially on the most muscular. So grow the quads, hit the abdominals and thighs, and get a little bit more condition on the shoulders and chest. You know, my advice, Derek Lunsford, is this. As a Mr. Olympia, you don't have to win all the poses, right?
Right.
When Hadi Choopan won the Mr. Olympia in 2022, he didn't win the back double biceps.
True.
Derek Lunsford won the back double biceps, but Hadi Choopan was the Mr. Olympia. In 2023, Derek Lunsford lost the abdominals and thighs. He lost the most muscular. But that doesn't mean he can't be Mr. Olympia. So I think Derek needs to go and really face Hadi, even if he knows that Hadi is great at that pose.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. As an Olympian judge, what's your opinion on hitting vacuum on abdominals and thighs?
I like the vacuum pose. I think that's a beautiful pose. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger, and a lot of Frank Zane. In the history of bodybuilding, we've had great competitors hitting the vacuum pose. That shows that you have full control of your abdominal section. And I think it's a beautiful pose. But I would recommend competitors to hit the vacuum and then squeeze the abs, right?
Right.
So you can display two things, that you have full control of your abdominal section, and then you're also showing that you have great deal of muscle and detail on your abdominal wall. So I'm a fan, and I think competitors have the opportunity to hit the vacuum and then right after squeeze and show the abdominals and thighs.
Absolutely. And next question is, how has the judging criteria evolved over the years for Mr. Olympia? And how do you think current Mr. Olympia plays in early, let's say, 2000?
So, the judging has evolved just like the competitors have evolved, right?
Right.
If you look at Larry Scott, 1965, right? The first Mr. Olympia, he doesn't look like any of the guys competing nowadays, right? The competitors have gotten bigger. The competitors have gotten more defined. The competitors, we've seen even better shapes. We've seen people with better genetics. So we are now judging better athletes, right? So we were still judging muscularity, lines, conditioning, and presentation. But we're starting to pay attention to things that have happened. So if your abdominal section is coming out, you have no control of your abdominal section, we're going to mark you down, right? So that's an evolution of the judging. In about 50 years, 60 years, you didn't have some crazy imbalances, crazy imbalances on the shoulders or crazy imbalances on the arms, and sometimes we're judging and we see some of those imbalances and we have to mark it down. So the judging has evolved as much as the competitors have evolved, and we have to pay attention to everything. In 50 years ago, we didn't have to really look at somebody's belly coming out, right? But right now, this is something that we have to pay attention. We have to be conscious.
Absolutely. And bodybuilding is known as a subjective nature. How do you maintain objectively when judging competitors, which is such as distracted physique?
So, bodybuilding is not that as subjective as people think, right? Hadi Choopan won the abdominals and thighs against Derek Lunsford.
Right.
You ask Derek Lunsford about it, and he'll probably tell you, yeah, Hadi is better than me on abdominals and thighs. You ask Hadi, who's better on the back double biceps, and Hadi will probably tell you, hey, Derek Lunsford is better than me on the back double biceps. So, it's not as subjective as people make it up to be. We judge in a very objective manner who has more muscularity, who has better shape, who is more conditioned, who wins this pose, who loses that pose. So it's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of us following a criteria and evaluating pose by pose who wins certain poses.
Great. Brandon Corey, Mr. Olympia 2019, I think. Nobody talks about him. Do you think he's done, or do you think we're going to just be surprised when he's stepping on the stage this year?
That's a great question. I never underestimate somebody that has won the Olympia.
Absolutely.
I think Brandon Curry can surprise. He can fight for the title. He can get a top 2, top 3. But, you know, if you look at the 2019 lineup when Brandon Curry won, is that lineup is not as good as this lineup here.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, in 2019, Brandon Curry did not have Derek Lunsford. He did not have Nick Walker there. You know, he did not have Hadi at his best. Samson Dauda was not there. Hadi was not, you know, at his best. He was coming off of 212. He was growing still. So this lineup is a real tough, but I think Brandon can surprise us.
Yeah, another one. What's your opinion about Behruz Tabani? He won 2 shows this year. He lost to William Bonac with 1 point. What do you think about Behruz Tabani, and how do you think he plays in this year, Mr. Olympia?
Okay, I'm going to tell you this, and I want you to translate this to everybody. Okay. I have seen Behruz Tabani in Brazil. I have judged Behruz Tabani in Romania. And I've seen the progress that he has made. And I have seen the physique he has. I believe Behruz Tabani can eventually be Mr. Olympia.
Right on.
So I believe Behruz Tabani can eventually become Mr. Olympia. I think he has the genetics. I think his conditioning is incredible. I think he poses well. He's a young guy, so the future is ahead of him. I really think that you have to start putting Behruz Tabani in the category of guys like Andrew Jack, Samson Dauda, guys that can really be Mr. Olympia. Behruz Tabani is the real deal, okay? If Behruz Tabani shows up at the Mr. Olympia this year and he gets a first call out, I would not be surprised at all. That's how good he is.
Is there anything we can do for Behruz Tabani to get his visa, or is there anything anybody actually can do regarding to his visa?
So, you know, I've had a chance to speak with attorneys here in Los Angeles, attorneys that are Iranian, and they have been of great deal of help. We've been able to contact politicians here in Los Angeles to see if we can get his visa. Constant battle, right? We got to keep fighting until the end. And I'm in constant contact with attorneys, with even politicians, business people, so that they can try to get him over here. You know, Vahid Badpay is here. Hadi Choopan is here. And I don't know exactly what's happening in the Dubai embassy, but, you know, we are trying every single day to get this guy here. You know, if Behruz Tabani is not there, it will be a very sad day in my life, you know?
Yeah, me too. It's very disappointing.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, man, if he's there, I'm going to have tears of joy. So...
yeah, that would be an emotional moment for all Iranian people. In past 3 years, you don't believe how many messages do I get daily about Behruz Tabani and his visa issue. If anybody can help, we keep hearing we're just waiting for a visa or for embassy to just get result from them, but actually we haven't received any result yet. Nick Walker. What do you think about Nick Walker? Do you think he's going to be better than New York Pro? And how do you think Nick Walker going to place this year, Mr. Olympia?
Well, I think he's going to be better than New York Pro. He could have been a little bit more conditioned, but he won the show, and I thought he won convincingly. I thought Martin Fitzwater did a great job, but Nick Walker was a superior bodybuilder. I think Nick Walker is going to show up at the Olympia at his best. I think some of his poses are incredible. His side chest is possibly the best side chest on the first call out. It's the most dense side chest out of everybody. I mean, in 2022, when he hit a side chest, he has so much muscle on the chest, arms, and shoulders. It's incredible. Now, from some of the front poses, because he doesn't have a small waist, he needs to grow the legs, right? So that it makes the waist look small. But he can also start posing a little bit better to minimize the waist. Create a few angles with your posing. So just create a few angles to get the waist a little bit smaller. I think we're going to see the best of Nick Walker. I don't know where he's going to place, but again, I was very sad when he didn't compete last year, and he's a very close competitor from me, and I will love to see him on stage.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate. I'm a big fan of Nick Walker too, and the next question is going to be about Chris Bumstead. Do you think he is going to eventually going to open?
I think he might. He has mentioned to me that he might do a show as an open bodybuilder. Do I think he's going to be as successful as he is in classic? No, I don't. I judge classic physique and I judge bodybuilding. And there is a big difference, okay? If you put Chris Bumstead in the middle of Nick Walker, Derek Lunsford, Hadi Choopan, and Samson Dauda, he is going to look very small. Right. You know, if Hadi and Nick Walker hit a side chest next to Chris Bumstead is going to look very, very thin next to those guys. Yeah. We love Chris Bumstead. He's an incredible competitor. I think he might do an open show, but I don't think Chris Bumstead will be as successful in open bodybuilding as he is in classic physique. I think he'll be quite small.
Yeah. How close do you think Ramon is to Chris Bumstead?
Very close. Last year, he beat him in the back double biceps.
Right.
He's improving his back. His physique is getting more balanced because before he was all arms, right? He had these huge arms, but the chest was not that big. The lats were not that wide. He's starting to balance his physique. Chris Bumstead was not at his best last year. So if Chris makes a mistake and Ramon continues to get better, I think Ramon could beat C-Bum.
Wow. That's a big one for sure.
Yeah.
Ramon has the biggest potential after C-Bum, but beating a C-Bum is a different story.
Yeah, C-Bum is a phenomenal competitor. But like he said on stage, he's had injuries, right?
True.
He's had injuries. Exactly. The end of Dorian Yates' career was not because he lost to anybody, it was injuries. Ronnie Coleman, injuries, right? Phil Heath, injuries. Jay Cutler, injuries. Injuries are your worst enemy as a bodybuilder, and he's faced many injuries, and it looks like Ramon has not had any. So this could play out as a huge advantage to Ramon.
Yeah. The next question could be a little raw. Most of the Iranian people are concerned about the politics in bodybuilding and judging in Mr. Olympia. They think Mr. Olympia needs a good ambassador, somebody American, somebody being native speaker, English as a first language, somebody who can travel the world and be Mr. Olympia there to present the sport. What's your opinion on this one?
Well, I think that's wrong. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was Mr. Olympia, his English was not great, and he won the Mr. Olympia, right? Sergio Oliva was from Cuba, you know, and he was the Mr. Olympia. You know, Franco Columbo, his English, you know, was not great, and he was the Mr. Olympia. Samir Banu was from Lebanon, you know, and he was Mr. Olympia. Dorian Yates, who spoke perfect He didn't like to travel anywhere. He stayed in England and never became the great ambassador of bodybuilding. He always said, you know what, I just like to train and compete. Hadi Choopan won the Mr. Olympia. He doesn't speak English, and he might have been possibly one of the greatest ambassadors we've always had, right?
Right.
So Hadi Choopan, not speaking a word of English, when he won the show, I got more people around the world believing that they could be Mr. Olympia than when an American guy won the Mr. Olympia. So it's literally a fairy tale to think that we think that somebody should win because they can speak English or because they come from a country, they come from another country. Hadi Choopan, as the 2022 Mr. Olympia, brought more people to bodybuilding than possibly the last 10 Mr. Olympias because he was an international figure, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everybody in the world said, if Hadi Choopan can be Mr. Olympia, coming from Iran, not speaking a word of English, then I can be Mr. Olympia too.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. We had Mr. Olympia, Hadi Choopan, we had Big Ramy, we had Samir Banout, and I think this is a wrong idea for sure. And as a bodybuilding coach, what do you think about, let me see, I got to translate all this question to English. Sorry about that. From a judging perspective, what are some common challenges you face during the Mr. Olympia competition, and how are they typically handled?
So, as a judge, you almost have to prepare yourself in order to execute your job very well. So, as crazy as it sounds, you don't drink as much water as you would like because you can't leave the table, right?
Right.
So a lot of us, we have very good vision, right? To have very good vision is extremely important. So, we take care of our eyes. We make sure that, the lighting is ideal for us to see the smallest details. And the best judges in the world are the judges that have the ability to make a very important decision in a very limited time, right? Hey, listen, I would love to have Derek Lunsford, Hadi Choopan, Samson, Nick Walker, and the entire call out hit a frontable biceps and hold it for 10 minutes.
Wow.
So I can really dig it down,
Yeah.
but I can't. We only have between 7 to 8 minutes, 7 to 8, 9 seconds to look at everybody and make a very important decision, right?
Right.
So you have to train your eyes with your brain and all the receptors so that you look at everybody and you make a very quick assessment of who is the best on that pose, who is the second best on that pose, who's the third best on that pose. And you have to make that in about 7 to 8 seconds. And you really have to train yourself to get to that level.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be another thing. Going back to last year, Mr. Olympia, were there any standout moment during the competition that really surprised or impressed you?
Well, I thought that Derek Lunsford should have posed with a little bit more conviction. He doesn't pose as well as Hadi Choopan. Hadi Choopan poses better than Derek Lunsford. He poses better than Samson Dauda. And if I were to give an advice to Derek, I would say you need to match the intensity that Hadi Choopan brings to the stage. You presented a better physique than the previous year, but I didn't feel like your posing, your conviction was as it needed to be. I felt that Hadi Choopan did a great job in presenting his physique, but I think he could have been just a little bit tighter. He wasn't as tight as he was in the previous year, and he wasn't as tight as he was at the Arnold. Samson Dauda is a phenomenal competitor. He has incredible lines, right? His lines are beautiful. He has all the muscle in the world. He needed to be just a little bit more conditioned, right?
Right.
He just needed to be a little bit more conditioned. And, I thought Andrew Jack could have been on that first call out if he had brought what he brought to Texas.
True.
But it looked like he made tremendous improvement. At the 2023 Mr. Olympia, he still looked a little bit streamlined. So, we didn't bring him on that final call out with Samson and Derek and Hadi.
Yeah, that would be a thing for sure. So for my last question, we had Mr. Olympia before in different countries. For example, in 1971, we had it in France, 1972, Germany, 1980, Australia. Are we going to have Mr. Olympia place in any other different countries in next couple of years?
So I had a chance to do a live with Olympia owner Jake Wood on Olympia TV. And he said he would like to form a base in United States and do
Excuse
a
me, sir.
Olympia outside.
I lost you for like 10 seconds. If you please go back, that would be great.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So I had a chance to speak with Olympia owner Jake Wood, and he said that he would like to have a solid fixed base in Las Vegas, Nevada. He would like to do about 4 Mr. Olympias in Las Vegas, and then every 4 years he will do 1 Mr. Olympia outside of United States.
That would be amazing.
So that is a possibility, and that's something that came from Olympia owner. So you do 4 Mr. Olympias in Las Vegas, and then you go to a country in Europe, then you go to a country in South America, then you go to a country in the Middle East. So it's out there. I would love to go and do a Mr. Olympia in Tehran. I think it would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
It would be amazing. I think the Iranian fans are some of the most passionate fans. I think the Iranian bodybuilders are incredible. And I think if we did a Mr. Olympia at a soccer stadium in Tehran, or we did a soccer stadium in Brazil, I think it would be fantastic.
It's going to be wild, absolutely. And as a final word, do you have any tip for Iranian competitors who wants to make it pro and make it to States, to big show, Mr. Olympia?
I was judging in Tunisia in 2018, and the bodybuilding overall champion was a young man by the name of, from Iran, Lakaze. And the Iranian team was there. And I remember seeing them with their uniforms, right?
Right.
And they were so dominant. They were so good. I really have to say that don't fix what's not broken, right?
Right.
Iranian bodybuilding is about coming in as conditioned as possible. I can't remember judging one Iranian competitor that wasn't in great conditioning, I often say they're dry as the desert, so don't change the strategy. Keep bringing the conditioning, keep bringing the passion, follow the footsteps of Hadi, Choopan. And I would not be surprised if in a near future, we have a classic physique competitor from Iran that's Olympia champion, a men's physique competitor from Iran that's Olympia champion. I've seen some of the female Iranian competitors, Sahar in women's physique. She's incredible. Iranian bodybuilding is truly one of the best in the world. And I'm so privileged and honored to judge some of these amazing athletes.
Absolutely. Mr. Elgandi, appreciate to have you on. Thank you for your point of view. Looking forward to see you in Vegas this year, Mr. Olympia.
Looking forward to see all you guys. I love Iran. I love the Iranian people. I have made a commitment to myself. I'm going to visit Iran. I want to visit Tehran. And I want to send my love to the Iranian people. I am rooting for all of you guys. I am praying to God that Beruz Tabani comes here. Congratulations to Hadi Choopan. He was one of the greatest ambassadors as a Mr. Olympia. And I believe very soon we'll have